Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's FPV Podcast. This week, we invite the world champion onto our show and really get the full story of his entire career. And we're going to dive deep into this because we've known him for a long time. It's really exciting to have him back. But before we start getting into that, Elvin, what do you got this week?
Hey, guys. I hope you guys enjoying the time of the year. Halloween is over. The seasons is starting to change. And I hope you're starting to see the white stuff come down because I love flying in it. And a lot of us here, right here, we like flying in the snow. So get out there and have fun and check out my videos from time to time.
Cool beans. All right, Paul, for the two people in the world that don't know you, can you please introduce yourself?
Well, I thought it was funny that before we started recording, you're talking about like you're probably one of the most repeated guests on the podcast, which I am totally thrilled with. I love you guys. I've listened since like the first episode, so it's a pleasure to be back. But yeah, I'm Paul Nurkkala. I go by NURK FPV. I just won the DRL Allianz 2018 World Championship, which is pretty cool. And I make videos.
He makes lots of videos.
Lots of videos and blog posts too. I'm trying to double down on that as well.
Dude,
goodness.
If you have not read his history of his racing blog post, you should definitely check it out. It is long, but it's well worth the read.
I think it was 15,000 words. It was 22 pages single-spaced.
Wow.
It took me 3 weeks to get it all down.
Hey, at least you did it. A lot of guys won't do it, you know?
Yeah, I kind of thought, like, looking back, you know, in 10, 15, 20 years or 50 years when my grandkids are looking, you know, kind of like that one time you were on TV for these old things called drones that, you know, have been obsolete for 20 years. It seems like it'd be something good to just have written down somewhere. So I thought it was going to be a good exercise, and it really has been. It's been really rewarding.
Y'all used to fly those things?
Exactly. I mean, the same way we look at, like, I don't even know, DVDs, VHS, like, you know, it's that I feel like drones will kind of go that way eventually too. And it's just, I think it'll be fun. So that was something that Nick Korbashevsky, the CEO of DRL, kind of challenged us with. Was I know you guys sometimes don't feel like, you know, you're professionals or at the top of your game or something, but like think about it this way: like, if you know, look at it as like from the perspective of like talking to your grandkids about it, and like, they would be proud and amazed about the stuff that you're doing. So like, you know, stick with it and really believe in what you're doing and believe in the unique opportunity that is before you and take advantage of it. And so I've been trying to do that and trying to steer into it, you know?
Yeah. And I'm really glad you do that because very few drone racing pilots that have won big, they don't manage to take that step, which is a very important step, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's rewind the clock a little bit to like 2016. Like Paul was actually one of our first pilots to our race, and in his blog post, he actually says that was his first race. And I actually remember that pretty vividly because I was scared out of my mind because that was the first time I was organizing a race. So it was a first. Race. Yeah, so it was a first for everybody. So let me ask you this, Paul. It's like you have always had success in grassroots racing since the first day you really been on the track. You've always been very capable. It's like, where did that passion come from for you?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, so like when I got my first drone that I ever got was like a little toy, right? It's called a Hubsan X4, and it was like a Christmas present from my in-laws, and I played with it and like 5 minutes into using it, I was already like setting up challenges and like, you know, can I go through this little hole or can I land it on this marimba, like a little drum that we would always try to land it on and stuff like that. And day one, it was like, how do I get better at this? And my success in racing would be kind of driven by that like self-determinative, like, how can I master this thing? How, you know, I love all precision sports, which would be, you know, it'd be all forms of racing, golfing. I don't golf, but I love golf. I was very into archery for a couple of years, like traditional style archery and shooting and all these kinds of things that are about repeatability. It's about mental focus. It's about being better than yourself. And I think that racing is very much in line with precision sports. And so like all of that kind of comes together to build like that drive to be better, to achieve higher. And so that I would say that's probably my driving factor behind success.
That's awesome. And I know throughout your whole career, even though you've had great success, if you actually look back from basically 2016 all the way up to 2018, you have placed in almost every big major event. But throughout that time, since we know each other so well, I've always known you as a person to actually have self-doubt, to be always wondering whether or not you actually belong in those classes, because you also had, commitments to make sure that your family's taken care of, you have a roof over your heads, and you wondered whether or not you could, make it as a professional racing pilot. What brought you over the edge to stop doubting yourself?
I mean, you assume that I've stopped doubting myself.
I might have.
Even through parts of this year, and maybe even now, like I still struggle with the imposter syndrome. It's you look at the opportunity that you've been given, or even achieved, and realize that like maybe I don't deserve this. Maybe I don't deserve to be where I am. Maybe I got lucky. And I still struggle with that, to be honest. I still look at, Jordan Temkin or Sean Taylor or Evan Turner or, Alex Vanover, Min-Chan Kim. The list goes on. And I'm just like, I can't compete with these guys. But then I do. And it still doesn't mean anything. It's still not good enough because I haven't yet overcome what I believe to be my best, And so it's kind of it's both a healthy and an unhealthy self-doubt. It's I'm not good enough yet, and I don't know that I will ever be good enough. But I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep pushing. I'm gonna keep driving that doubt aside by becoming better, by mastery.
I like it. One of the interesting things is that because professional drone racing and grassroots drone racing kind of intermingle almost all of the time on these major events, it's basically like professional drone racing. Do you kind of feel like that when you go to these big events?
I talk about people at drone races as professionals. Even if it's not their primary career, there are people there that are there to win, and those are and so I almost determine professional not necessarily as the traditional definition would be like that you get paid to do it, but I think there's a mindset, and I think that mindset is very evident in people that are choosing to become better, that are choosing to master their craft and to be better than everyone else. And those are the people that I look at professionals. So even though Evan Turner is 16 years old and wants to go to school to become a doctor, I still look at him as a professional drone racer. It's a mentality almost more than anything else, and those are the professionals to me.
You're right that there's a professional mindset, and that's evident in all sports, from NASCAR to dirt bikes, BMX, downhill racing. There is a bunch of guys that perform or act professionally every time they compete, and what they do is can be seen as the baseline of professionalism for their sport. But for you've been on DRL for 2 years now, and this year you won. Congratulations! It's awesome to know and watch you come from the first time we saw you at an event and people were saying that's NURK. What I wanted to get to is the fact that what you competing 2 years in a row on DRL, some of the people are asking, okay, so now are you considered the professional? Are you no longer qualified to compete with the rest of the amateurs that are fending in a non-television show? Some people are saying that these pilots need to start to be recognized as the professionals of their market and can no longer compete with the amateurs of the rest of the group.
Yeah, I guess to be honest, I'm a little surprised to hear that. I think that at the end of the day, we all just want to race each other really fast. I don't think anyone, even the best, go to grassroots style racing expecting to earn a paycheck. I think that's true for everyone, regardless of whether or not, you've competed at the highest level or are just getting started. My response to that would be, if that's the way that people want to do it, if they want to kind of say like multi-GB has to be, an amateur only kind of thing, like that's totally fine and I would respect that. But I would be very surprised to hear that the majority of people don't want a chance to beat Jordan Temkin or NURK, somebody that has raced professionally. I think the competitiveness that this awesome community has would drive them to say, no, let me crush him. If that's the way that it's taken, I would be happy to have that conversation. I think they like the chance to take down a professional and to say, this is my shot. Look what I can do too.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's actually a double-edged sword, right? Because at one point you do want, a chance at that prize money or that placement, which the top DRL pilots or DCL pilots are always going to be in competition for. But at the same time, I think you also need to recognize that those DRL pilots, they are your best shot to actually making it into DRL, because if they go back to their bosses and say, hey, I raced against this guy about 3 times. He's able to keep up. He's professional, and I think he would be a great rookie for 2019. You got to recognize that, right? So it's definitely a double-edged sword, because there is a lot of cost to going to these drone races, and if you don't podium and there's no way to get some money back, I feel for you, bro. I truly do, because it can get expensive.
It would be very scary to make a living off of just grassroots racing, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do it. Let's just be honest. I don't think you can do it.
It's too little money and too many places. That's what it is.
Do you still like going to all these grassroots racing events?
My gosh, yeah. I mean, I went on Monday this week. I went to a micro fly-in with local people, and we flew tiny whoops and drove little RC cars around. And that's just as much fun, just as much competition, as going to a DRL race. I mean, obviously DRL is on a budget and a lot more, it's a different experience, but both are a lot of fun still in their own right. Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to Megadrone X and Vegas for multi-GP nationals, and I'm considering going to Boston for a race coming up, stuff like that. So that's what it's all about. It's about the people. It's about hanging out, having fun, racing, and improving yourself.
I think there's actually still a lot of room for improvements, because you go to some of these grassroots races and you will find some really fast guys that you don't know. There's just times
it's scary.
Yeah.
Boomerang is from the Kentucky area. Now he's 3rd in the region. Where'd that come from?
Kid practices, man. It's those fast twitch muscles, I swear. Okay, let's get into DRL Season 2. That was the first time you got the call right after Drone Worlds that you were getting brought up to actually race instead of being a coach. When that call happened, what was your initial feeling?
Oh, crap. Just prior to Drone Worlds, I went to Colorado to practice with Anub and Jet and Moke, actually. And I was flying, twitchy 5 and 6 inch quads, and they were flying the Racer 2, which is just
it's a flying
slow. It's slow. And they were whooping my ass all day long with this monstrosity, and I'm like, I've just been at Drone Worlds. I had a pretty lucky run. It is what it is. Got the call, and then I realized now I have to fly this slow thing too and keep up with these guys who at that time had just become champion and 4th of the world respectively. It's like, what? So that call was awesome and exciting and wonderful, but at the same time it was like, holy crap, my work is cut out for me now.
There is definitely plenty of that. Now, we watched you throughout the 2017 season, the 2017 season, and I would say that imposter syndrome was in full effect for that entire season for you. Tell me about that story.
Yeah. I competed in the first 3 events of season 2, skipped the 4th, and then competed in the 5th. And in the first race, Miami Nights, and I got dead last. Like literally the worst scoring DRL pilot ever. That was pretty eye-opening. I was not prepared for, cameras, mics, best pilots in the world, the biggest course I'd ever flown on. I even made mistakes like you have control over the rate bank on your quad. I had, for the entire event, my quad was set on the wrong rate bank because I was so focused on just flying. I came into that event like not ready and freaked out and sucked. So,
Man.
so if you're talking about the imposter syndrome, it's like I've done all this work. I got really lucky, got a call, and totally lived up to my expectations. Totally lived up to, it was luck that got me here. And yeah, that was pretty rough. But instead of feeling negatively about that and being upset that I didn't get lucky again, I use that to motivate myself and to drive and to reset and think about what it was that made me fast in the first place. So I went and practiced. Like I built a course around my house. I set up home so I could fly from this armchair behind me in the winter while I was taking breaks at my day job. Made sure that I reset myself from thinking I have to be the fastest to I need to do the best that I can do. Mm-hmm. And the start of that is practice harder, do more work. And the end to that is go to an event and fly your own race. So I got to level 2. I kind of played garbage man. I stayed in the air. I finished heats and I got second by 1 point to Gab 707. I beat Jordan Temkin. I beat a noob. And so, it kind of comes back. It's like, if I slow down, I think about flying my own race, I can get back on the podium. And then, so I took that. I said, okay, I'm going to keep working harder. I practiced more, kept doing the same thing, went to some other races, and came back to New Orleans, level 3 of season 2. And I was faster and more confident. And I still flew my own race, but my own race was almost faster than everyone else's. Into the final heat, I needed Jordan to crash to win. And Jordan crashed off the blocks. If Bigstrawley hadn't had the most magical, epic run of his entire career, I would have won that race, but I lost by 1 point to Jordan Temkin. So again, it was, fly as fast as you can, but within your limit, know what your limit is and know how to push your limit higher and higher, and you can perform. We skip a couple months and go to Munich for the playoffs. Like everyone had to go through the playoffs to get to the World Championship of season 2 in London. And I started flying faster than I was supposed to. I felt that itch. I needed to push harder. I needed to compete with these guys. I needed to beat them. The same thing that happened to me in Miami at the beginning of the season, I'm now letting myself, even 4 races later, succumb to, and I crash in the most spectacular way, totally knocking myself out of the competition. Even though I have had success in that season, I'm now revisiting oh, I guess I just got lucky then and don't deserve this again. It's so I'm sitting there on the sideline, I have footage of it, watching Jordan do the beautiful pass in the Champions Loop to win the World Championship once again, and I'm sitting there I couldn't have ever beaten that. I remember thinking, there's no way I could have competed here, and I just immediately gave up on all of the progress I had built. And it's hard. It's hard to face down the best in the world, the best people in the world, and still believe in yourself.
Really, all it is just you, right? I mean,
Yes.
you have to perform. You have to be the best that you're capable of doing. You have to make sure that you're not on rate, 2, profile 2, and you're thinking you're on profile 1. I know these things happen to a lot of racers, and over time it happens to all of us for some reason or another. You get distracted and you make a mistake, and then when you start off with a mistake, then you're only building on mistakes, right? Do you think that the courses were too difficult at any time?
No, I don't. And I think that anyone could fly any of those courses confidently and get around them and get it done. But once the nerves set in, once the anxiety of having to compete sets in, the game changes. And it's the best racers in any circuit of any kind of sport. The best ones are the first to manage that pressure. And those guys are the ones that continue to see success again and again and again.
That brings up an interesting point, because reading your blog posts, one of the things that was really shocking to me when I read it was that, when you had that quote that you were making excuses for yourself and somebody told you that you were a toxic person to be around. That's really shocking, because you've always been like a super positive person every single time I've met you. Like, what happened? Like, I was so shocked to read that.
I was shocked to hear it. It wasn't until after level 1 season 3 that somebody said that to me. So like that's almost a year later that somebody brought it up. And I won't say who, but it doesn't matter because they're right. When that happened, when I crashed out, I immediately, and I don't think it was so blatant as to be like, I hate the world and I hate everybody. It's not my fault. But it was what I think happened was that I would just constantly try to come up with excuses for myself. It's, I got hit a bunch of times by Jet, which is true. And I have the TV show to prove it. And, or like I wasn't prepared or I didn't sleep well enough, sorts of stuff like that, which I mean are all true, but it doesn't matter. You showed up and you lost.
Right.
Deal with it. And
but that's hard. Some people don't understand. That's hard to deal with, though. It's hard to look at. You put in your time, you put in your effort, and it just wasn't good enough.
And especially, even more so when there is the ability to blame it on something else.
Right.
It's not always the case that you can, but it doesn't matter if you can, right? Yes, yeah, messed up. Deal with it. And I think that's been one of the biggest things that I've learned this year is how to be professional in every sense of the term, in a win and a loss, and know that there's a lot more to it. And I think we're going to come back to this. Being professional is your job when you're a professional competitor. It's not even necessarily winning all the time. That's your job. It's about being a representation of who everyone expects you to be in a way.
Well, we've talked about that before when it came down to sponsorship. You becoming a better sponsor pilot. When you first started racing, you were heavy into racing, but you weren't heavy into promoting yourself and putting yourself on display. And you would show up. You did a couple of little videos, but nothing drastic, and nothing to the amount of videos that you have today and all the podcasts that you've been on. Because I can say that you have grown in that tremendously since the beginning. What do you think about all the work that you've done in doing the videos and all the extracurricular stuff that goes on with being a number one race pilot in the world?
So that's something that I've been giving a lot of thought lately. I guess we could probably kind of jump ahead a little bit because that's kind of building into the kind of like what's next sort of attitude. It's how do I've been given a platform I see it. I'm even saying, given I guess I've earned a platform. Like I can't even say it. I can't even say that comfortably because I still don't believe in myself. That I care a lot about this hobby and this sport and the people that I've met and the people that have helped me. I have worked very hard to build a platform from which to share my journey, a journey that started with me deciding to become one of the best drone racers in the world and has now kind of bookended with a world championship. Now that I've done that, I've told that story, the story of being a professional drone racer. What can I now do with that platform? How can I continue to help people, whether they're hardcore racers or mildly interested in drones or don't give a crap, about these machines, which, they're a loss. Right now, what I'm trying to figure out is what does that look like? What does the next 3 years look like? Can I continue to help people in some way? And I think that a big part of that is going to be content creation. It's going to be continuing to share, things that I'm learning and stories and ideas and principles and tips and attitudes, and really driving home, what I truly believe about the people in this community and insane opportunities and power and all of that stuff that comes along with it. And so when you ask, what do you think about the work that you've done to create videos and a platform, I look back on it and I can't help but be proud. I did, not to bring up one of your competitors, but the Fly Life podcast. And a guy messaged me and said, "Hey, I was driving down the road. I must have had the volume up too loud or something like that, because a motorcyclist pulled up next to me at a stoplight and asked, 'Hey, were you just listening to NURK?'" and the motorcyclist heard through this guy's open car window my voice. They pulled over into a gas station, exchanged phone numbers, and have been flying together for the last month because the guy that was listening to the podcast was able to help him fix his drone. So you sit back and you're like, asking are you proud? Like, what do you think about the platform that you built? Like, I cannot help but be proud that, just these two people have been able to connect, make a friendship, and share something that they enjoy together. Like, that is what it's freaking about. And so that's, those are the kinds of things that I want to be out here doing. And I couldn't be more thrilled to hear those stories and that those kinds of things happen.
That is a really cool story. That's a crazy random story. That's, I think you'll be with you for the rest of your life. But here is, okay, Jet, don't be angry at me. Jordan, please don't be angry at me.
He says hi, by the way. Like, I was messaging him before we started recording, and he was like, "Have fun and say hi to Y."
Okay, so honestly, here's what I think. Every single time when somebody becomes a world champion, and they don't take advantage of the fact, because you are the face of the DRL brand right now, officially.
Right.
When that thing said, "You are the winner," you are the brand, you are the head, right? You are important in a way that no other person is. But it's up to you to actually take that further. And what I mean by that is, it's up to you to become your own PR man. Or if you're not good at it, get one, because that's what you need to do. You need
are you going to be the Tom Brady? Are you going to be the Tom Brady or the Brett Favre?
I was thinking more of a Danica Patrick.
Danica Patrick. That's funny. Okay, so here's what I would say.
He's very promote.
You have a terrific story, right? And you have documented that story. But there's not going to be a lot of people that's going to find that on your blog post or on your YouTube channel. Hey, hold on. Let me finish. You need to get yourself into some motivational presentations. You need to get yourself into some real major auto races. Not auto races.
Amazon DVD.
No, not
Come
anything
fly
like that.
with NURK.
Will you stop derailing my stuff? Truly, honestly, you need to get in front of an audience and start telling your story, because that's what everybody does when they become a world champion. It's just that in our sport, we're a little bit too not fixated on that, or we're just too young to where nobody's actually even thinking about that. And because you're already at the point where you want to do something like that, you absolutely have to go and pursue that like right now. Because right now, you've just been on television. You're highly marketable. You need to get somebody out there pounding on some door saying he needs to be on this podium. He needs to be presented in these group of people. Not only to present to the audience, but you will flush out your contact list dramatically and very quickly when you go to these type of motivational events. Those people will connect you to other people, so on and so forth. Those are the most important connections that you can get for that year when you are still world champion. And that's the door that I think Jet missed, is that he didn't do that part. Whereas every other professional with a PR management firm, the second they win that championships, they are literally on every show you can ever think of. You turn around and you cannot, not see them. That's what you need to pursue. That's what you really need to drive home. And in fact, your employer DRL needs to be the one to back you up on this. You need to actually come up with that proposal and saying, I'm your face. Here are the shows that I think I'll fit in. Let's get the conversation started. Let's get me on these shows, and let's get some real networking going.
I agree, and I actually had a very interesting conversation along those lines today, and I have a soft plan to start working on that I'll be trying to solidify over the next few weeks. I hear what you're saying, and let me tell you that if you have a feeling of imposterness within your own community with people that recognize how hard you work, and what value do I bring to someone trying to be motivated in their normal life, right? No. Or in their business, or in their public school, or something like that. Like, it's just like, it's terrifying. I do not disagree with you that it's a good idea, and I plan to pursue stuff like that, but what? It's like, it's scary. It's really, really scary. I'll tell you right now.
But you're the professional, see, and this is where you're gonna excel better than me, or better than Y, because one, you have that title. That title is your door opener, your stamp, your seal and your shield. When you walk in, you can say, hey, I have the trophy. I'm number one. And people are going to listen to you because of that and the legitimacy of it. No one in the world right now can say NURK is not the champ. Go out there and get other people to recognize the fact that you are, and build up on that, because you can. And it's no different than what you've done before. It's just you're focusing on a different area of your talents, or maybe you're not so talents at this time, and you're venturing into a new market of yourself, because now, like I said, you have to, if you don't promote yourself, you're not going nowhere. Right. I mean, to get the big TV ad, to be on Mattel, blah 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 blah, selling this or that, to be involved in Haviland or the oil or whatever, you need to be there so that they can see who you are and understand that you're highly capable of doing other things outside of what they know you're capable of now. The more you display all of your talents, the more opportunities you have in the end, right?
I can give you an example of, like, I have presented to tens of people, to 50. Biggest one was a couple of hundred. I have not broken over 1,000 yet, but a couple of hundred is still scary as shit.
That's a lot,
And let me tell you, I presented on drones. I am not the foremost expert on drones, but because I have a podcast, people know me, and because I've been doing all these event stuff, people just influence think I know all things drones, right? And I have never refused to present in front of an audience, because I understand like the networking that I can get from it. So when I go up there and I'm presenting against drones, a lot of the times I feel exactly like you. It's imposter syndrome 101. It's like there's going to be that one professor all the way in the back that's going to say, that's going to tell me I'm an idiot, you know, and it's always in the back of your mind. It's always in the back of your mind. But you know what? It never happens. Even if that professor is back there, and I have met some professors that are way, they won't say it. It's professional courtesy, right? Just try it. I'm telling you, it's worth it just for the networking aspect. And I think you have the great story of, you know, your greatest story is pursuing your dreams. I don't think there's a better story right now, you know, that's kind of grassroots, which a lot of people want to hear, because they don't want to hear about like somebody who had all the talent in the world and winning the championship. Nobody wants to hear that story. Everybody wants to hear, I did not think I would be here in 3 years, but here I am, and I think you can do it too. That's a great story.
Because it's the average American thought process, right? Like we all,
the American dream.
We all we all struggle. We all struggle to become something in this world of many talents.
I would also say this though, and this is like kind of like bad advice, but good advice. Take it how you want it. But like,
those are the best kind.
I would also pursue the fact that you might want to pick up an alternative to drone racing that you would pursue as a backup plan, right? You're known as a person that's fast right now. You're known as a champion. You know, might behoove you to actually get in the door of like actual car racing, or, you know, whatever type of racing that you want as a backup plan. Because let's face it, drone racing isn't, you know, it's not a solid sport. Okay, we're not seeing millions of dollars flowing in, right, as opposed to other motorsports. So I don't
think that's true.
Well, hey, you may know more than I do, but I would consider a backup plan.
I know a multi-million-dollar company with worldwide sponsors that does drone racing. So, you know, that's one. I hear what you're saying. I agree with you that it is not the biggest thing in the world, and it has a lot of work to do to get there. Mm-hmm. But I have to believe that it will.
Right.
Like I said, it might be bad advice to you. I'm just I'm throwing it out there because you asked.
No, I understand where you're coming from for sure, and I think that some of having started a video company is that it's having I don't want to say like a marketable skill, you know, like it's something that I can take somewhere if it all dries up, but. I don't see that right now. I see, you know, another 5-10 years of just good, awesome founding of something new and something big. So this is the interesting stuff to me. This is the, you know, it's trying to figure it all out.
Hey, you was just concentrating on racing. That's what you was. Now you got other opportunities and things you got to deal with.
Where we last left off in season 2 of drone racing. Okay, now we're heading into season 3. Now, obviously, season 2 didn't end up the way you wanted, and you did see an epic finish to season 2, in which Jet, you actually kind of patterned what you did in season 3 to what Jet did in season 2. He started off terrible. He was also in a slump, and he was also questioning himself, because we actually had him on. We talked about that. Got himself together, and he moved forward, and he was the 2-time world champion that he is. Going into season 3, you obviously knew you had a lot of work. We actually talked about that, in which you felt like you did not reach your potential, and then you were just going to double and triple down and made sure that in season 3, nobody said that you were picking up garbage time points. What was your what was your mentality?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's it right there. I got audibly called during heats the garbage man. Like, I remember at one point, it actually was in New Orleans, where I was flying through like the big straightaway section, like on the way to like the reverse split S. I remember hearing shout from the audience section, "Oh, there goes garbage man!" I remember that happening. And if somebody like brings this up to you, like, it's totally fine. Like I think I remember laughing at the moment. But it's like I knew that I could be faster. I knew I was capable of pushing myself, and I knew that I could do more to get there. So I had to figure out what that looked like. And so for the winter, between seasons 2 and 3, I think Jake or Jaws and I practiced more than anyone else leading into season 3. We went so far as to rent warehouses, full on. We found spaces that we could share with other people that didn't care if we were crashing drones into their stuff. So really big machining equipment and storage and stuff like that, and practiced our asses off. We were only able to get into the warehouse at 7 p.m. and it was not uncommon to fly until 4 or 5 a.m. And we would be there, in concrete, and I-beams are not good for drones. So I think if you scroll back on Instagram, you'll see pictures of Jake and Mai's piles of parts from just that day. It would not be uncommon to go through 4 or 5 motors a day and have to, fix up the drone and stuff. And so, but we were also flying 100, 200 packs a day. And we knew how to fly the Racer 3 in a tight technical course better than anyone else. Once we learned what the course elements were going to be like, we set those up and we flew those elements. In the level 1 of season 3, there was you do a dive and then an up and then a down, and we had that element. We had an up and turn element, and we practiced all these things, and we got really, really good at them. And so what we had set out to do was to take our fly your own race and make our own race faster than everybody else's. When you get to level 1 and you fly, you just have to fly confidently, and McStrawley is going to crash out on the first turn, and you win. By making yourself confident and comfortable, you get out there and you just crush it. And at no point did I ever doubt myself. No point did I doubt my skills. I just flew the pace that I knew I could do every single time. Set the record and took the win.
I like it. I like it a whole lot. McStrawley, we love you, man, but man, you need to hold back a little sometimes. But
you just gotta leave him alone though, man. The dude flies fast, and Evan said that about another pilot that we were asking him if the pilot was if Chief? He thought the pilot was dangerous. No, not Chief. And Evan said no because he can never finish.
It's fair.
Wait until Evan turns against the DRL. He's going to be on there eventually. But let's get back on track.
You're right. I got to make my mark before he gets there.
Obviously, in race 1, you won. You raised that podium. But did it feel like validation, or did it feel like got to keep working?
It was a mixture of both. I wanted to race McStrawley in that last heat. I wanted to earn the win, not just by kind of playing a mental game with him. Somebody commented to me that he said you won that heat before the goggles ever went down, because I was getting in his head. I was messing with him for fun, for the show, but at the same time, I gotta win here. But at the same time, it wasn't. I was worried that people would still look at that and just be like, "Oh yeah, he let you have it. Congratulations, good job." I didn't let that get to me in the moment. I had wondered what it would be like to hold that big prop thing up for 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years, because I watched it happen in season 1 too.
Oh yeah, okay.
And oh gosh, did it feel good. It was it all finally came down to that. That was pretty great. I'm not gonna lie to you, that was a highlight for sure.
Was that the pinnacle of your racing career at that point?
Winning a DRL, that's what it is, right? It's all about the win. It's every single broken drone, every single broken promise to your wife, every single hour of fixing and fighting and repairing and frustration.
Wait. Oh man, I gotta put new screws in my motors.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. You stripped a shaft, putting the next prop on after a dumb crash, and you gotta replace the whole thing now. Yeah. It's all of that does not matter anymore. All of that weight is gone because it is valid right now. And so it's just holding that is it's ultimate relief. It's every frustrating thing that I've had to deal with does not matter now because I have
the
won.
flat tires.
So at the championship, like that was what I felt was relief. It wasn't necessarily like I'm so happy. I mean, I was happy, but I felt relieved. I was like, it's done.
We paid
did
off.
it. Yeah.
All that work paid off. Just for the sake of the show, we're going to fast forward a little bit. Now, between the finals and that first race, you kind of hit a slump. Like, what perpetuated that? Because you started off the season with such a high, and then why? Why did you slump?
I'm still not sure that I know. Honestly, I'm not sure why the slump. The slump started because of losing an Adventure Dome, and that was just, that was me just losing. Like, it was fine. I got beat by the course, and I hit a couple things I shouldn't have, and it was just dumb mistakes, and that happens. I carried the weight of that loss into a bunch of different races, including races in Tianjin, China, and as well as across the States, and came into Munich not focused on winning or flying my own race. I was focused on how do I get past this slump. And so like I was targeting the lowest possible rung on the success ladder and lived up to it, right? I sucked. I was 11th place at that race out of 12. And so like that sucked. It really, really, really sucked. Like I didn't want to make a fool of myself in front of, the first audience I ever got to race in front of, and I did. Because I was thinking about that and not about winning and flying my best. And I actually remember after Munich was over, we had all the pilots were sitting together just kind of chatting, and I mean it was Germany, so we were having beers, and we were just kind of reflecting on the race and stuff, and then the CEO Nick Korbashevsky walks in from, I assume, some sort of meeting or something like that, and we call him over and we're like tell us about what did the venue think? Like, how did the race in front of an audience go? And he talked about that, and then sat and had a beer with us, and it's the conversation very quickly devolved into like talking about what does it mean to be professional, and what does it mean to be at the top of your game. And I remember him saying a few things, one of which was that Duncan, who won 50% of all races in DRL this season, except for before finals, and at his other race got third. He's just like, Duncan goes out to win every single time. Duncan doesn't care what people are thinking. Duncan doesn't care how he's going to do, as long as he wins, and that's all that matters to him. Paul and I think Gab and Shaggy and A-Noob were all there as well. And he's like, you guys, that's not what you guys are there to do. Duncan is, and he's got a winning record to show it. And I looked at that, and he also talked about he recommended that we all go watch Rush, Ron Howard's Rush, which is the story of Niki Lauda and James Hunt in Formula One. And he said, just when you watch the movie, don't think about anything besides the drivers' attitudes. Their attitudes are, everything about me needs to change in order to win. And that is the only thing that matters. My life does not matter. I am going to win, and stuff like that. Like to that, I mean, and that's an extreme end of it, right? Because 1970s Formula One racing is just absolutely batshit crazy. But and so you come into this and you say, how do I emulate that attitude? How do I emulate the attitude of someone that is there to win? And I really reflected that. Actually, on the plane to Saudi Arabia, for championship, like I watched that movie again to just continually push myself into the mindset of a winner, and that, you know, no matter what I do, I needed to leave it all out there, and that is the professional thing to do, and that is the, you know, that is a requirement to be a competitor, and it paid off. But you know, like, and so like, I never broke the slump, because I had to go cold turkey into championships. I mean, I did a lot more work. I was flying 10 hours a day, every day until championships. I changed the way I flew. Like, I physically hold the radio differently now so that I can reach the top percentage of the throw of the throttle more easily. Thank you, Nub. You know, and I practiced courses that I thought would mimic what was going to be there in Championship Kingdom, and so like all of those things came together: the attitude, the discipline, the work. I knew I had to leave it all there, and if I didn't, I would have come home disappointed, and if I did and I didn't win, that would have been okay. That was what allowed me to overcome what was a slump and allowed me to say, okay, here we go, let's do this.
That's actually a good segue into talking about the finals, because watching the show, you were definitely a different person when the finals happened. You looked a lot more focused, and you flew differently. It's pretty visible. Was that because of what you learned and exactly what you said?
When you say finals, you mean all of the heats and finals?
Yes.
Including semifinals and stuff?
Yeah.
So you just mean championship. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got there and I was just fired up and ready to go. Like, I think one of the most, between in semifinal rounds, I won the third heat, and that heat clinched me into I won the fourth heat, and that clinched me straight into finals. And I remember like finishing that. I crushed everybody. I set my best time. I just stood up and screamed to the point where like my voice was gone. Like I was just like, yes! And I mean, like in that, like it just kind of, it came back to that attitude, that champion attitude of, even though I didn't necessarily believe that I was going to be the champion or could be the champion, it was forcing myself to think that way. It's a discipline as much as it is a personality or something like that. Like, it's, you know, you don't have to have the personality of a champion, but you can believe it and do it. It's weird. It's super hokey pokey, but.
Actually, I think people that can actually scream like that do better, because like there's a release, there's a exit of energy that really does help you throughout the whole event.
Up.
Yeah. Now, following up to that question, it felt like you understood the course like pretty early in the actual race. You felt like, you know, you could like pin that whole course. Was it just because of the practice, or did that course just feel right to you? Well, I mean, like, what was it that, you know, like, because you look confident throughout.
So what's funny to me is, historically, like, that is not my kind of course. Like, very open, very fast. Like, I just don't like to fly that way. I like to be like, I like really, really technical and annoying. You know, I had set ahead to, I'm not going to go fly to get by. I am going to fly to win. And so everything, I was constantly calculating, like we did we have a practice day, like where we fly probably 10 batteries before we ever get to stuff that's recorded and shown on screen. And there's always a sleep in between that. And so I had the opportunity to, you know, take my DVR, to really analyze it, to study it, to figure out where can I actually remember having like a eureka moment while I was studying my DVR, and found like a whole second and a half that I could earn back on lap times. And I started doing it in semifinals, and I started winning heats. Like, it was, you know, night and day. Like by, you know, I just listened to some, I I need to get amped up. I don't need to calm down. I can be calm. I need to get amped. So like I'm listening to like hip hop. I've got like Childish Gambino, Logic, like, you know, all this stuff going, like just really amping me up. At the same time, I'm really focused in on watching DVR and learning, you know, like the eureka moment for me was like there was a turn. So you do the city gate, which is like that big like corkscrew maneuver in the back, and then there's this big left turn to a straightaway. And I was coming like way the crap out on that left turn. I had no idea I was doing it when I was playing or when we were in practice. But when I watched the DVR, I realized that if I like literally just aimed at the palm tree and like I could like basically just chop leaves off it every single time, I could cut a whole second off. And, you know, and then other places I could earn a little bit more time and a little bit more time. And I had practiced the sky loop maneuver where like you go up, over, and then down on the buildings. Like we set a gate up on top of football stadiums, like grandstands, and practiced exactly that maneuver at speed. You know, so like, you know, you hit it, you're falling into concrete and rebuilding your entire drone. You know, which sucked. But, you know, it's and so like I knew the places where I could earn time back against my competitors, even though I'm not necessarily the fastest at some sections. So like, you know, this attitude, the discipline to think critically and to analyze and understand, and having practiced things ahead of time brought my baseline up, brought my confidence up, established that attitude. Like that I think showed in the show. And I think that was what got me to the podium.
It's nobody's secret, or you've never made it a secret, that you look up to Jordan Temkin as your idol for, you know, what drone racing is, right?
Oh yeah.
Going into the finals, you know, Jordan Temkin was there. It's like, what did it feel like to surpass your idol?
Well, you know, I still haven't surpassed him, right? He's the 2-time. I'm just the 1-time.
Okay. Are you serious? Okay.
But, you know, Jordan is the perfect competitor. Nothing bothers him. He can reset at a moment's notice. He can play games with your head. He can fly goddamn well. And he knows how to put in the work when he has to. But, you know, and so, like, you know, any given day, he's more ready to win than anyone else, I think. You know, there might be days where somebody else comes in more ready, which was the case in finals, I think. But, you know, on average, he's going to be there and on top and ready to crush it at the drop of a hat. And for that, you know, I have so much respect for him. And I really have looked up to him for a long time. He was the first professional pilot to like sit in goggles with me and watch me fly. You know, he was the first professional pilot to just like sit and chat and be like, "Yeah, what's up? What are you building? What's going on?" You know, and he and Zach probably got me on DRL. You know, they put me in front of Ryan and said, "Bring him. He's here. He wants to be here. He's going to do something good." And he has offered so much encouragement to me along the way. He helps me deal with that imposter syndrome. And so, yeah, I look up to Jordan, and I don't want to ever think that I have surpassed him, because he's, you know, given me so much in so many different ways, and is just an awesome friend and somebody that I love. And I couldn't be more grateful to his leadership. What's the word I'm looking for? He's my sensei. Statesmanship. I like that. Although I'm picturing him in like a wig, like traditional British, which would be fantastic.
Good PR answer, Paul. You're learning quick. On the flip side of the coin, Paul, you let me down.
That is not a PR answer. I truly believe that, and I tell that to Jordan probably every day.
I know. I just had to get that in there, that jab in there. All right. Flip side of the coin to that question, because he is a world champion, right? Because in order to advance beyond the world champion, you actually have to beat the world champion. Going into finals, last race, who was your most dangerous competitor in your mind?
Yeah, both Gab and Nub. they both had faster lap times. They both, they both can keep it pretty calm. Like if I look back at history, I was a little bit more scared of Gab because he tends to be much more confident. He is ineffable. He is unshakable. Like with Jordan, he can reset. He can get out of his head and he can just fly. And once he's warmed up, and as he continues to warm up, he gets faster and faster and faster and faster, and there's no catching him. And so, for me, the only thing that I could think of with that was that I needed to get in front of him. So I launched. I didn't quite catch him off the launch, but I got him on the first turn and just gave it everything and pulled ahead a little bit. And lucky for me, he made a mistake. And, it's lucky, it's an imposter thing,
I was going to say that. You beat me to it.
Oh, I will always beat you to me not believing in myself. Don't you worry. But, and I mean, we flew an awesome race. That was my fastest heat of the entire night. It paid off. I won. It was awesome. I can't describe it. Like, it was just perfect to be, I just felt it. I knew it, and I was ready, and I just let it happen. I got out of my way and flew.
Got out of your way and flew.
Like you said Jordan's infallible, kind of, and same thing with Gab, unshakable, they can easily reset. Well, what keeps you from doing that same thing?
I don't know. I can, just as well as I can look at a flight and come up with a million reasons that I should have gone faster, should have done something. I can look at my, a competition and see 1,000 reasons that I should have failed. I can look at anything and just say, oh, well, this person did this and it's because of that, and you got lucky because you did this instead of that, and you crashed here 4 times but you just happened to not crash the one time. And I don't look at those. My mind does not let me look at those things and say, oh, you prepared for that. It's, oh, you luckily avoided that this time. It's going to get you next time. You really don't deserve it. You should run. You should stop doing it. You should go practice more. And it's both. It's good and bad, right? Because it drives me to put my nose to the grindstone and keep working and driving out those fears. But at the same time, it forces me to try to break a slump in Munich in front of 4,000 people and fail. And so it's I'm trying to figure out the balance, and I don't know what that looks like yet. And so you're right. I shouldn't doubt myself, but I kind of like doubting myself. I kind of like using that drive to push myself further.
What shows the championship or the professional level is coming back from these subtle mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Whether or not you show the persistence and the longevity to maintain as much self-control over time and putting it in the net at the end, right?
And and something that I've played around with this season a little bit was like creating a split personality for myself. Mm-hmm. So like Paul tends to be much more realistic and cautious, and you can't do it. You need to be better. Blah blah blah. But then NURK kind of just believes and is a champion and screams at people screams he just screams and stuff, and it makes sounds and gets excited and gets a little cocky, but not because I believe that I'm better, but because I have to lie to myself to believe that I can be better. Like, right. there was Jordan had posted like a congrats to everybody that won and stuff on his Facebook, and like one of the first comments was like, God damn it, the one person I didn't want to win did it. and like somebody commented and was like, whoa, why do you think that? I think he's a pretty cool guy. And he's just like, dude, if somebody's gonna be all cocky and talk trash and then just get all quiet when he starts to do poorly, oh man, I can't stand that kind of person. I just lost it because I was like, wait, no, that's literally what I'm trying to do. I'm faking it. Like I can't trash talk. I'm not this kind of person, but I have to pretend to be like the quiet, shy person that's like hiding over there. That's really me. This other one, like that's a fake. That's not real. And so I left it. I hit the reaction with the wow to the comment. It just left it at that. But it was just like, oh, that's too funny because it's perfect. Like that's what it is. But thinking about it that way has helped me a little bit. It's I am lying to myself when I say, when I call out other pilots like, oh, I'm gonna get you, like let's do this, boys, like that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like, that's just NURK. NURK comes out when the goggles go down, but the rest of the time it's just Paul kind of hiding and like, are you sure we want to do this, guys? Like I'm fine with third, it's fine. But NURK pulls me along.
I like that NURK character. He's a good character.
Yeah, he's a dick, that's for sure.
Hey, that's the drive. Hey, that's the drive.
Not true.
See, that's
not true.
No. What I'm thinking is that is part of the TV personality thing.
It's not that, because I'll do that anywhere, cameras or otherwise. I will drop into NURK mode so that I can lie to myself.
You're not lying to yourself. You're just letting another
You're trying to hype
personality,
yourself.
another persona take over.
Oh yes.
Oh yes. All right, let's switch gears real quick before we continue on to the last few questions.
Yeah.
One pilot that I do want to talk about because he was on this show and we were lucky enough to have him on was Nub, and he has impressed the heck out of me for being in the rookie season and just coming on. And I mean, like what he did in the finals, he, in my point of view, he killed it. Okay, he might not be first, but he still killed it.
Oh,
like,
yeah, there's no doubt in anyone's mind that Nub killed it. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, like, give me your interpretations of Nub, because like he's kind of like you in a lot of respects when I talk to him.
A lot.
Nub is humble.
Just shorter.
To a fault.
Shorter.
Well, yeah. Like humble to a fault. In a way, like he is just like the perfect, like he's a working man, like he loves everything. He's just I love being around him. I love listening to his stories and the way he looks at the world and the way he carries himself is very humble and very open to learning, and he wears his emotions on his sleeve, which means he'll cry a little bit. He'll get emotional, and he will yell at you if you and it's great. And I love and respect that, because I am too jaded to always share how I feel and stuff, and I look up to that in a lot of ways. I get to seeing someone live that out, to see someone be, emotionally available, essentially. Like, I know that sounds funny. That sounds like a relationship term, but like, he is willing to not worry about that and to get to being a true friend and being a true person really, really fast. And that shows in his racing, because he knows how much he needed to work to catch up to the people that have been flying Racer 3s for 2 years. He was willing to put in the work, and I saw him do it, and he progressed time and time again, to the point where in Adventure Dome we're all just like, are they giving him drones with 6S batteries? Like, none of us, we fly 5S, none of us could understand how he was going so fast, and I mean, it just comes down to his attitude and willingness to put in the work and to get it done. And for that, and I respect him and admire him and admonish him so much for all of that, and I hope to continue to be his friend and become his friend more through another couple good years of competition and flying, and yeah, he's awesome. He's what I aspire to be, honestly.
You can only say that so many times, you know that, right, Paul? You are the champion, you know that, right? Let me remind you of this.
But I mean,
You know that, right?
any day, any given day, you shake it up, you run it again. I have no doubt that Nub could beat me as many times as I could beat him, and that drives me to crush his ass every single time. It also drives me to respect him and love him, and I keep coming back to this, and it's because I absolutely believe it. But like this sport, this community, it is about the people. We love to fly our drones and to compete and to do all of these things, but the reason that we do it is to be with people that we care about the same things that we do, and that breaks down barriers. It breaks down racial, language, gender. Like, it does not matter. Age is a huge one, right? You have 40-year-olds hanging out with 16-year-olds, and they both look up to each other. Like, that doesn't happen in the real world, and so if you're not taking time to think about the people that are around you in this, and I'm talking to the audience here as much as I am you and Alvan, it's think about why you like these people, and think about the community and the opportunity that you have to make friends around the world across all of these boundaries. Like, that is extremely powerful, and it has never been possible throughout history to do something like that. It's insane. And so if you think that this is just about flying and it's just about competing and about earning something and earning recognition or whatever, like, you are missing the point, because you have the ability to influence people and be influenced by them and love them and share with them and be loved on by them and share with them and be shared with by them. And I have hardly seen a community that is as powerful as this one, and you need to lean into that. So yeah, that's my soapbox for the day. I'll take that and put it over here. But yeah, so when you say, you can only say that so many times, I flat out disagree with you, because we all, as humans, need to be looking at each other and learning from each other and relating to each other and building on one each other. And drones are just an awesome vessel for that. So
good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
I hear what you're saying. That. Totally disagree.
I like that. I like people that are willing to disagree with me. And as a podcaster, as somebody who gets a chance to talk to all of you, I love the fact that every champion that I talk to, whether it's Jet, Gab, you, or Nub, sorry, you're all different, but you're all passionate about the same way, and you bring your approaches in drastically different ways to accomplish the same goal. And it's always a pleasure talking to you guys. But before we start wrapping up the show, we kind of already answered this, but I'm going to ask in a little bit different way. Obviously, championship's over. You are the world champion. What have you thought you want to accomplish in the short term for your immediate future?
Somebody asked me that the other day on an interview, and I kind of I speculated with them and thought with them, and I care about this a lot. I really do genuinely believe in what I'm saying about people and community and being in community and sharing deep relationships with other people, and I want to start to encourage that directly. I know that sounds really kind of like a weird thing, but it's like, I have spent time learning drones really well and drone racing, and I've built a bit of a platform, and now I want to take that platform and do something good with it. And I think that helping people realize that they're part of something awesome, not just in terms of it's fun or competitive or exciting, but that it's, there are like religions founded on less than that. It's in being in communion with people is the most human thing, like the most basic human need. And I think that if we can, work together to help each other encourage that aspect and intentionally as a community steer into that rather than squibbling over the R9 versus Crossfire on the internet.
You went there.
We can legitimately build something that will change lives for the better.
Yeah, we actually do need a leader like that in not just drone racing, but just in drones in general, because nobody's really tried to step up into the forefront and saying, we have something great, let's try to actually cement that and make it permanent, or have somebody follow in your footsteps to to keep leading other new people in. And yeah, I love that answer. It's not wishy-washy. It's just a huge goal, and huge goals require small steps, and you are on your path, so you just got to start taking small steps. That's what I always say, because that's the only thing you can do.
You know who I always think is the best self-promoter? It's Hulk Hogan.
All right, let's start wrapping up. Paul, I appreciate you coming on and spending 2 hours of your time with us. And
it's my pleasure.
Really getting pretty deep into a lot of topics that we probably don't talk about too often. But for anybody who wants to get to know you better, help you on your journey, or just, I don't know, wants to be a fan, where can they reach out to you?
NURK.tv is the best place to go. HTTP NURK.tv, and that just supports my YouTube. So that's the place to catch me. I share as many thoughts as I can there. I have a lot of fun there. We're building a community. We're giving stuff away. We're having a good time. So if you want to follow that journey, and see where it unfolds to, that's going to be the place to stay in touch. But yeah.
All right. We appreciate all your time. And definitely give NURK a follow, Paul. Appreciate all the time. And we are out for the week.